So true.
Mm-hmm. I think I move on to our next slide here, Sally, because that will spark our cool discussion.
Yeah. So we got
As
this from the intermediate office because we dropped in there and they had this good conversation going on. So we're like, yeah, that would be good for junior office hours too.
Yeah. Now we're just stealing other people's stuff.
Yeah, just like we do in the school.
Yeah. It's so true.
Yep.
There are some things that I will definitely be. I was thinking about what even Rod said, like, I can't believe it's already been however many weeks, 14 weeks or something.
Yeah.
And like what I haven't got done that I was like, thought I would get done or.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, like, you know what? I did get a lot of gardening stuff done that I wouldn't normally do. Like I started gardening way earlier this year than I did. Well, not true. When I was building my garden, like I had to start that really early, but like just on a general year, I wouldn't normally start gardening that early. And I was pulling weeds and cleaning leaves and cleaning up messes.
I know.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It is nice to get a head start.
Yeah, I agree with that, Sally. A lot of people are like actually enjoying their gardens, their flowers, their backyard because they're done. And normally this is a time when it's like, it's so hot and I haven't put my annuals in yet or that kind of thing. So like that will be nice.
Yeah.
Well, I have been every day I sleep in for like an extra hour and a half, which I've been enjoying. I definitely will miss that. You know, once we're back at school every day, hopefully.
When I've gone to the garden centers, like I can't get what I normally get, like because everybody's gardening or there's been a like supply issue, but like I haven't to get the stuff that I normally get because everything's gone when I go. So I think everybody's gardening.
So Diane, what's that painting class that you've been taking on Zoom?
That's cool.
Shannon Maneri is an EA in my class, and she has a business where she teaches painting classes, and she goes to places like St. Michael's and gives classes and goes to birthday parties and stuff. So she started doing this on Zoom for the students and the painting, because not all the kids have paint, right?
Right.
She does a painting class as well, maybe 2-3 times a week at night. So I took one and it was wonderful. It's Zen. It's like taking yoga without any exercise. It's just wonderful. I loved it.
So therapeutic. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's sweet.
And I might have some hidden talent.
Really?
Well, there you go.
You should show us your picture. You should post it or like bring it
up. No, but really, the name of her business is called, I'm trying to remember. It's We All Can Paint, or Anyone Can Paint, or something like that. And she's right. She's right.
Oh, amazing.
I
feel like when you have, sorry.
No, I'm just saying I've done 2 of those and I've liked both experiences.
Yeah, when someone's walking you through every step, it turns out decent. But like for me to just do it freelance, that doesn't happen. It's not so good.
One time I went to paint night and it was for one of my friends' birthdays. And so it was painting birch trees in the fall. And then I was able to take that and do it in the class because they taught us how to do it step by step. So we did it step by step in the class. The kids' paintings were incredible. Like it is really neat experience that you could just, you know, make sure you remember every detail and then do it with your
That actually makes sense because we had I had Hazel from the Lawrence House come, you know, and they'd come to your class and do it, and it was like a Picasso painting, and it was so cool with pastels, which I love that medium, and I totally recreated it every year with my kids because I was like, this is so neat and not that hard, but it looks really, really good at the end, and they're all unique.
Gwendolyn saying I remembered every step, but like it's really not as complex as you think. Like it really wasn't what she taught us how to teach these trees. It was so simple that it wasn't hard to remember. Like it was easy.
I think that might be one of my big takeaways from all of this is like try to slow down. Like I'm a big multitasker. Like when I'm at home, like I used to have like 4 projects on the go, and then none of them would ever really wrap up. So I'm like, when this first hit and we were home so much without the outdoors really to explore, I was like, what else are you going to do? Slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on one thing, finish
Mm-hmm.
it, and then go on to another task.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I carry that through.
Well, Pam, remember we were talking about knitting in the beginning of this?
Yeah.
And I did start something. I started knitting something.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not finish it. I think I'm not meant to be a knitter.
Well, I have a little stack of dishcloths. I have one on the go right now. When I watch TV, I knit.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Give me a year
a movie to finish one.
All right. So I think unless anybody has anything that they're going to be nostalgic about once COVID is resolved, I think we're ready to move on unless somebody wants to add. I'm going to miss connecting with you guys, to be honest. Like I like this, like sharing ideas. Like I feel like I've learned so much, like hearing from all the teachers about what they're doing.
Yeah, the sharing has been really great. And I think it's because there's no one here near with you, you can't just quickly grab someone in the hall. That it's so nice to connect, especially in this session because it's just junior, right? So people are like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Diane.
We were talking about it in the kindergarten sessions. There was a lot of curiosity about, will this continue in the fall? And curiosity often is the power of invention, right? So I wonder, like, why couldn't they? Maybe not like every week or something like that, but every month have a connection, or so we'll see.
Yeah,
I definitely think it will change how we learn. Like the idea of having to go to a central place to have a session.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it will be to go and learn how to paint.
They're just saying in the thing, Diane likes this way of having a workshop. I like it too. Mm-hmm. It's just so convenient. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go anywhere. Like connecting with junior teachers across the board and sharing ideas, like you're saying, Kate, like so much easier.
Well, and I was just thinking because I think Diane is from the Chatham area.
I think so.
And I actually think Christine is too. And like, I never would have ever met you because we would never have run sessions down there, right? And so it's really nice to sort of bridge our board, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we've grown into liking these two, because I think the hard part, I'm going to speak for myself, but Kate and Sally, like the challenging piece is the feedback part. Like you don't know what we're sharing is like on point, or are we going too fast or too slow? And just like in the classroom, it's always nice to have that feedback from your kids. You can tell by the sounds they're making and the faces on their look if you're on point or do we need to slow down. But I think because we've had this time to like basically develop a relationship online, slowly but surely, like, people are starting to speak up in the chat and take over the mic. Those things have made it much more enjoyable, I think, on my end, and even like you feel like good, like about the content you share with people too.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ideas. It's so great. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to be back in the classroom in a year and try everything out and learn from everybody. Okay, so I don't think we really need introductions because it looks like it's the regular crew here. So for joining us, everybody, on this last session of office hours. So we're ready to get started, Kate?
Yep, sorry, I'm gonna move forward here.
So this is a picture of Kettle and Stony Point, and in the foreground there you can see a kettle. And actually I told Kate I was going to research about the kettles. I just remember hearing as a kid from like my parents saying that these kettles like formed, like they must have been pockets where something like I don't know that, like, so it would be a good thing to bring into, like, say your rocks and minerals lesson, to figure out what are these kettle formations that formed. at Kettle and Stony Point, like the circular rocks that have formed. So that's what I was told. I could totally be off base there, but it would be a good investigation that I told Kit I was going to do today, but I didn't get around to it. Sorry, Kate. So as a kid, I went to Kettle and Stony Point every summer, probably usually like maybe a couple times a month with my family. My dad has 5 brothers, and they have kids all in similar age, so we would all pile up in cars and like go and get KFC at Stop and Forest, get a bucket of KFC, and then go to the beach. Then the beach was like much wider than it is now, so we drove our cars up and like would all park the cars on the beach and spend the day at the beach. Sometimes the waves would be awesome and it'd be cold, but we'd still be in there swimming. And so just thought we could talk about Kettle and Stony Point because it hasn't been brought up very much in our office hours. Like obviously I'm from Aamjiwnaang, and Kate's in Sarnia and Pam's in Sarnia, so our kind of area is here, so it's nice to kind of bring in Kettle and Stony Point. And I think this picture is just amazing. I got it from their Facebook page.
I was listening when we had the Lenape conversation the other day with Brent Stonefish. And he was talking about being from the East Coast, and like I'm from Prince Edward Island, so the Mi'kmaq people, or Micmac is what we incorrectly pronounced it before, Mi'kmaq. But it was interesting, he brought up them in his conversation. I was like, I wonder if there's like there obviously would have been relationships on that eastern seaboard side. He said he's never made that connection before.
Okay, next slide.
Oh
wait, I got to acknowledge.
No. I know. I'm waiting for you.
Okay, sorry. So we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we are connecting through today is part of the traditional territories of the Chippewa, Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Delaware nations. These Indigenous nations, also known as Anishinaabe and Lenape, agreed through their ancestral languages to the mutual sharing of the land with obligations and responsibilities to the environment. Today, these responsibilities and obligations extend to all peoples. An important aspect of a territory acknowledgement is a call to action to make a commitment. In this extended version of the LKDSB territory acknowledgement, we are being called to take on the responsibilities and obligations to the environment. One of the things that we have tried to draw your attention to in the land acknowledgement over the sessions, that it does not have to be a separate part of your day, but it can also be include lesson content to make it more meaningful. We try to find local Indigenous topics to discuss and grow our understanding of the commitment to honoring and protecting the land.
Thanks, Sally.
Looks like Pam's frozen up. I can see her face there.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
My voice is here, but my camera freezes often, so
Okay.
I'll turn my camera off just so it's not as distracting.
Okay, so this poster, the LKDSB, we just got a memo actually from Heather Hughes saying that the LKDSB is celebrating and honoring National Indigenous Peoples Day by hosting, along with other boards, Weaving the Braid of Unity virtual summit tomorrow from 1 to 4. And this event has been organized by Indigenous leads in those boards. And there's some influential voices from the communities abroad, and there's also some from the local area. So I'm really looking forward to that session tomorrow afternoon. I got an email today about it from somebody that I've worked with at Aamjiwnaang, and it was highlighting all of the speakers that are going to be there, or everybody who's going to be participating, and there's some really neat things. So I thought I'd share those things with you. So there's going to be some youth voices speaking at it. Moses Lunham, who is the other person that I took that paint night with. It wasn't actually a paint night, it was a day, but he is there, and he's going to be creating a piece live. So he's the live artist, and it looks like he's threaded throughout the session. So he'll start, and then somebody else will present, and then he'll come back. So that looks really cool. Cecil Isaac from Bekejnong is going to be talking. He's always a great speaker to listen to. There's going to be people doing hand drum, throat singers. Thielen Kignosway from Walpole Island, or Bekejnong, is going to be doing the hoop dance, which is my favorite. So I want to see that. And I'm so excited that it's somebody local that's going to be there. There's going to be an author and somebody also playing the hand drum. There's going to be Cameron White-Eye, which I don't know where she is from, but sounds local, but could be anywhere, I don't know. She is going to be doing a fancy dance or shawl dance. And then there's going to be somebody else with a jingle dress. So hopefully we'll hear some history on the jingle dress because it's interesting. So
That's a great lineup.
Yeah, and that's not all of it. Like that's probably half of what I just read off. I just highlighted some that were interesting to me, and like there's lots there.
And that's from 1 till 4 tomorrow?
Yeah, so
that's a lot in 3 hours. Holy, good for them.
It'll be really interesting. I'm excited for it. It says, Gwendolyn says, is this teacher oriented or something for us to share with our kidlets? And I think it's open to anybody. It says, no, it's talking like it's students and stuff presenting, like Thielen's dance. So and there's youth voice. So I think it's open to everybody. So I would definitely invite, I might even say like, hey, let's join in as a class. You could go Google Meet and go live stream, couldn't you, by sharing your screen? Like you could just connect to that live stream. That email came through this morning or yesterday from Heather Hughes, and the link is right there. All you have to do is click on it and it'll take you to it. So hopefully everybody can join in.
That's awesome.
Will it be recorded? I'm not sure if it will be recorded or not. Like that's a lot of people, so I don't know if everybody would give consent to be recorded or not. Pam, you're adding in the CBC. Is that the link there through CBC, or is it?
No, I wanted to share that with you because when we were making up the remote packages, the CBC Kids website was something I had used there. And there's a great reading passage on hoop dancing is one of the things that we included in one of the remote packages, but there were some great things about beading. And so they're just, I think you could use them in your classroom as like a reading source, and some beautiful pictures to go along with it too.
Nice. Okay, so we just talked about this event for tomorrow, and we talked last week about National Indigenous Day. And I was saying to Kate last week when we were talking about National Indigenous Day, to me, I know it as Solidarity Day. And so then I'm like, well, that makes me think about when teachers are talking about National Indigenous Day, will kids that know it as Solidarity Day put the two together, that they're well, I guess they're not the same thing, and they happen on the same day, in my opinion. National Indigenous Day is like a recognized day where, like, the government, the boards, like, are recognizing and honoring like Indigenous like experiences and voices. But when we talk about Solidarity Day, like I'm from Aamjiwnaang and my community calls it Solidarity Day. And so this is like a day where the community celebrates their community, right? Like it's about being together and being connected and celebrating like who we are, and I guess unity in my mind. So I was just thinking like maybe that's something we should just bring up, because if you're talking about National Indigenous Day, maybe some of your students, not all First Nations students, maybe recognize it as solidarity. Maybe that's not the term from their community, but maybe it's something that you could mention, say, in Aamjiwnaang, if you're in this area, you say Aamjiwnaang celebrates Solidarity Day, and they do community activities with each other, kind of thing. It's not our Solidarity Day this year is not as extensive as it has been in the past. It's because of COVID, but they're still doing activities to celebrate Solidarity Day. So,
and
yeah, go ahead, Kate.
Sorry, Sally. I was just gonna say, like, when you and I were chatting earlier, as a classroom teacher, I kind of always assumed that the First Nation students that I had kind of knew like all of what was going on maybe at the Solidarity Day, or that they knew maybe that both those terms kind of meant the same thing. But I feel like now, I don't know why I assumed that, because I felt like maybe that was something that was brought up in their home, but you were saying like it's not like that always.
Yeah, like every person like comes from different experiences. And so what happens in one family home, or like, so there'll be kids that are from Aamjiwnaang, like our Aamjiwnaang, say, band members, like community members. They will like, maybe like they may not live in the community, but they come back to the community and spend lots of time with their family and friends, and they notice Solidarity Day. But maybe there may be like a child who is from another First Nation community and are not connected with Aamjiwnaang, but they attend a Sarnia school, or maybe they are from Aamjiwnaang and they haven't come in and learned about that yet. So it just couldn't vary, right? So like, we're talking about making assumptions about what students know. And I think you have a good point, Kate, that like, not all First Nations students know all of their cultural and heritage, traditional teachings, background, and some do, some don't, some have a little bit, some have a lot, right? And that we as teachers shouldn't expect those children to be like the representative in the class and speak to all of this. If they want to share something because they've raised their hand and said, hey, I know about that and I did this and that, and that's great, but also it wouldn't be like, okay, so we're going to talk about Solidarity now. Now, Sally, will you stand up and tell us about it? Because they may not know, or they may not be comfortable, right? So it's just if they...
And like National Indigenous Day really was only like named that since 2017.
Yeah.
So like that's that tradition of like the Solidarity Day, which would probably been mostly focused within First Nations. So when there was that Truth and Reconciliation, like the honoring of the heritage of Indigenous people became more nationally oriented because of the change of the name, right? So more opportunities to learn.
In the First Nations community, like, well, in Kettle Point and Stony Point, so these images, that the last one and this one that Kate just had up there, those are from Kettle and Stony Point Facebook page. And so they are referring to it as Solidarity Day, and they so they still call it that, right? It's not the term that they've chosen as National Indigenous Day. They're using Solidarity Day. And so like, these are activities that they've planned within their community, and their community members will participate in that. And then if we go to the next one, I put some from Aamjiwnaang. So there's a window decorating contest, and then there's a how to make fried bread contest, and it's a video you have to submit. So I was thinking, that'd be interesting, but I just couldn't make my own video, I think, doing that. Besides, my kids don't like when I make fried bread, so mine might not be that good.
And then Sally, I just want to ask, like, you and I were chatting earlier again about this, and I was saying, well, like, who can go to this? Like, they have all these great things, but it's really for like the community of people, right? It's not sort of like broadly known.
Yeah, and so I was thinking, like, people can know that because it's not something that's put on the radio that's like, hey, Solidarity Day happening at Aamjiwnaang, everybody come. It's really, it's advertised to their community members, and community members attend. Whereas like the powwow is advertised on the radio. It's like it's open to anybody. People that are not from the community are all welcome to come. But on Solidarity Day, like, I could go and I could bring my husband, who is not First Nation, and like, he would obviously be comfortable and like fine to go. But like, it's not like a thing that's advertised to anybody can come.
Okay. Yeah, it's good to clear that kind of thing up, because this looks really fun, but I understand the purpose of it more now.
It's about the community. It's community developing. It's supporting and connecting with each other and their community.
Right. Yeah, I think that's great, right? Okay, so was there anything else on that one, or shall we move on? Okay, so this was our clips from last week, and if you want to check that out, it's on these platforms. You can get to it, and I won't play it, but it's like a minute and a half about our learning last week from Lori sharing her end of year task, and the great resources from Gretchen that she shared, and I think there was like a math manipulative on there too.
Okay, so we're going to talk about some language sites today, because we really have neglected that a bit in junior office hours because Kate and I are so focused on math. And then we're going to talk a little bit about anticipating next year and like what that will be like for all of us and how can we prepare ourselves for that. And then we're going to talk about using images in the class and share a couple sites that we found.
Okay, so Pam actually was alluding to one of the sites, even though she didn't know what we were going to chat about. We just found these sites and we were going to chat about them last week, and maybe it's probably not something, I'm just going to exit here, it's probably not something that you're going to use this year. I mean, you can certainly welcome to check that out, but we thought since we do share a lot of math stuff that we should share some language-based things, and these are all great for remote teaching or face-to-face teaching, whatever life is in the fall. So we thought we would just share these few. I'm going to start with, which one will I start with? Yes, this is the one that, is this the one that Pam was talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, CBC Kids News. So this one I thought was really great. I made a few notes because I was looking at all three of them. This one we thought was good for both primary and junior grades. It has a lot of video content, a lot of, but video as well as reading. And then it had a lot of images embedded in all of their reading and really relevant things for the kids. Something I really liked was this recap, and if you click on this, she does one every Friday, and it kind of reminded me of I've seen a lot of people using that CNN 10 in their room, and talking about things that are in the news, and I think that one comes out daily, even though this one's a weekly thing. It was really good, and it talks about some really hot topics in the news, but it's a Canadian perspective and it's done by kids. And I know the CNN 10 guy isn't, and I think sometimes that might be a little bit more relatable for kids, I guess. So I'm not going to show this video, but it's just, I watched it and it just seemed really kid friendly, and then as you can see, it's got some other voices in there too. So I thought that was awesome. Yeah. Pam shared something about the hoop dancing, which I won't find, but then
it's not in that site, Kate, actually, because that one's the kids news one.
Oh.
Yeah, so in the one I have, it's like cbc.ca, and it says kids CBC2 again. So
okay.
So this is great.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be great for that media literacy piece, like that whole, like the one, the Aunt Jemima piece there.
Yeah.
So
that one just came up because that wasn't there 3 hours ago. When I looked at this early this morning, that one wasn't there.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, like
today.
Yeah, and I really like that it is Canadian based. And it's got some funny stuff too, right? Like this bird's attacking everyone that runs by it. So I thought that was a useful site. And then another site I was going to show you was teachingkidsnews.com, which is also a Canadian site. And it was actually created, I read about this in the About Us. This was created by a teacher who had a parent who is a journalist. He was teaching grade 3, and he used to have this parent who's a journalist come in and always teach the kids news in his classroom in real life. And then they had this brainstorm idea to like, why don't we take this online? Everyone should be learning about news. And so she quit her job and now writes news, not solely, but along with other journalists for this Teaching Kids News. And so it's awesome. It's kids based, and I would say it says up here grades 2 to 8. I don't know. I think grade 2, it's challenging. I would reread it for sure. But it also has some really great ones. And what I really liked about this one is that it has curriculum connections to it. Mm-hmm. And if you click on something, say like this Black Lives Matter one, oh, did I click on it? Oh yeah, I did. This is just going. When you scroll to the bottom, it actually has like discussion prompts. and thinking questions, and then links to where they can find other information, which I thought was really neat. Because sometimes that's the trickiest part, right? Is that you read this great article and then you don't know what to do with it, or what are the great questions that you can ask from it. And then, of course, this is something you can link from your home.
Okay,
and then it's got some other fun stuff.
Can I add something about the stance on this? Because I've used this website a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and actually saw the people speak about this, and they wanted to have kids be knowledgeable about challenging things that are happening in the world, but they knew that, you know, kids that are 10 years old don't need to know, but the violence and the devastation. So all their stories take the stance kind of like the helpful aspect. So like first responder stories, what can you do, that kind of piece. So if you're uncomfortable about bringing in a news topic into your classroom, this might be a great entry point to go in, because it gives that stance of, but like, these are the facts, but then also about what's the kid's perspective, or what's that helping perspective to go for.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Pam. That is really good to know. And I think on those points that Pam just made are kind of repeated here, where it's talking about our goal is to bring the news to kids, but make it safe and kid friendly, rather than scary sounding, right? Which is often what happens when we see news. So this is a really great site. And then another good site that I was thinking of is, or Sally found, was Science News for Students. And it's actually American based, but it still has some really great things. And so on here, I didn't have one that I wanted to click. When Sally was looking at this, I think there was a lot of, you know, in the moment Black Lives Matter stuff going on, but they're sort of not moving away from that, but they have some other things on the forefront, I guess. Something I really liked about this is that they have in the educator section up here, it tells you the different types of articles that they have. So they have news stories, and then approximately how many word features, and then the feature articles, which are longer, actually have questions that go along with it. So if you want to read a feature article, they have the same kind of thing as that other, the Teaching Kids News, where they have some focus questions that you could have. And then also when you're thinking about using this site, sorry, I'm just going to scroll down here for a sec. We got classroom resources. So classrooms, a series of classroom questions. They, at the bottom of the articles, they also have like focus words. So it's almost like a glossary for the kids, which is really helpful. And there's some funny, neat things in here. So, so these are the feature articles, because I clicked on it, and they have these are the questions. These are the ones that come along with questions. And then there's lots of different topics that you can choose from up above there.
Can you scroll down just 1 second to the second article?
Sure.
Tackling the novel coronavirus calls for ideas. Novel ideas, yeah. That's what we talk about next.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. I saw this one. I can't remember if it was on this, if it was from this site, but it was talking about, I've read so many articles this morning. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, why you're spotting more wildlife during COVID. Which is, it's really cute, and like everyone has been noticing that, right? But actually, do you want to know the answer to that, even though this article is kind of short? Is that basically it's not that they're around more, it's that you're noticing them more. That's why we think that there's more animals around. That's what the gist of the article was for me. So it's not like because of anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I noticed like when the buds were changing on the tree this year, and like, oh,
I know,
growing a little bit more. Now they grow more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, number 5, we're finally paying attention. That's kind of what it boiled down to. The snakes aren't changing, we are, right? So it is interesting. So that was kind of a neat article I stumbled upon. And I think that was it. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to highlight about those. They're all basically like junior age would be great for them. So that's why we wanted to share them. And they have some really good questions that go along, and they're free. So it's good to, you can use those in your classroom for sure. All right, I'm going to go back to our slide deck here. The next thing up was, oh, I'm going to stop sharing, I think, right?
First, yeah, no, we're gonna share that one slide, this one right here. We're gonna talk.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So remember we said we are like kind of just gonna do some anticipating for next year. So like if I were in a school, and I'm assuming the same for everybody else, like if we were in the school with all of our colleagues, we would be talking about, okay, like what are the possible options for next year? And then like, I'm sure this conversation would happen around the staff lunchroom, and we'd be like, okay, well, this could happen, this could happen. We'd be throwing those ideas. And so we thought, well, let's take some time to talk about that. And then this is where like, we're like, this is about the collaboration, and like, we need each other. And Kate and I need you guys as well. Like, we need to know what your thoughts are on this. Like, we haven't experienced it like you have this year. Like, we haven't had our own class. We've joined in classes, but we're not responsible for a classroom full of students. And so we too need to learn from you guys, like what are your thoughts on this, and what's going to help you, because our job is to support, right? So we need to know what we need to be doing too. So it's kind of like, we're all going to kind of look at this together and share some ideas so that we're a little bit more prepared in September. Right, Kate? You're thinking?
Yeah, and so Sally and I were just like, you know what, we're sort of chatting with each other, and we just thought these could be scenarios that happen. We don't know what the scenario is going to be, like nobody knows, and I don't think we will know even leading right up to it, right, until we're there and living it. So we just thought, okay, you know what, all we can do is think about our experience right now, and what our thoughts are. And so what we decided to do, or I kind of coerced Sally into doing, is
talk about those real quick. Can we go back?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
So these scenarios were not scenarios that we know any inside scoop on. Like, this is just like, we're speculating too, because we don't know. So it could be like all students are attending, like they're face to face, and they're like at school, everybody's together, and we're gonna have some safety precautions. There'll be blended learning, like where some students are attending, and then Monday and Tuesday, like this is a scenario that's happening at other schools in other areas, I don't know where. And then maybe there's a cleaning day, and then the other half. And so some kids are at home doing independent, and then they're there sometimes, like, so it's kind of a back and forth. Or maybe like fully remote learning at some point. Like maybe we'll start out the year together, but then we'll switch off. Who knows what's going to happen, right? But those are kind of the things that Kate and I were thinking could be potentials.
So Sally, it sounds like you were just talking to the director, because he just sent us an email summarizing basically what you just said. We don't really know yet, and we're planning for all scenarios. So
I do know the face part, because Kate told me about, I didn't see the email.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, so you said at school, so that means face to face, like that could be a potential. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, so I threw it in there.
Yeah, so it just came at 2 o'clock. It just came at 2 o'clock today. So you're right on point with all the things that he's wondering about too. So
sweet. Yeah. Just make me the director.
Pay raise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what we thought we would do, was there anything else here, Sally?
No, I was just saying, yeah, let's go.
Okay. So what we thought we would do, and what I told you that I twisted Sally's arm to do, is I thought that you guys, having come this whole time and having experience and thought, I'm sure, about what September is going to look like, is that we thought we would do like a collaborative slide. So instead of like a breakout, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this link to another slide deck. So this other slide deck looks like this. It says collaborative slides. And then you just have to click that link that I'm putting in the chat in a second, and then you will have access to this slide. And our hope is that you can just sort of go through the slides and add your ideas. So what do you wish your students knew before March break, right? So I'm sure that there was a little bit of like, oh crap, I wish I had done that. And then some things that you wish they had at home. that would have been really useful. Like, these are a few thoughts I had. I'm sure you have lots of things that you're thinking about, like, oh, I wish my kids had this at home. I could do this with them. And I'm not talking about, you know, like things that they don't have at home. These are things that might be at school that they could take home for a short period of time or something and then bring back. Like, I know I wish my kids had their indoor shoes. We needed shoes at that time. And then we thought this one too, like, so what do you think, what do you feel is important that you want to remember, so that, because over the summer, for me, I got to write everything down, or I'm going to be like, oh shoot, what am I going to do December? Or this could also be your thoughts about like some wonderings. I think, like, in the chat, there are some people have put like a few wonderings in there. You can write that in there too. So I thought if we could sort of collaborate on our thoughts, and then we can have this as a tool that we'll add to the bit.ly document, and you can use that as you wish.
Yeah. So that in the chat. So everybody's just gonna, like, once you paste that in the chat, everybody's gonna click on that link, and then we're all gonna be working on it together for like 5 to 10 minutes. Is that what you think, Kate?
Yep. And you guys will still be able to hear us. You'll still be on Zoom. You'll just be working in that slide deck. So hang on, what am I doing here? We thought we would try this out.
Yeah, I see Deb's adding a whole bunch of stuff, so I'm hoping she can add that stuff into the Clever slide, because that's what we need. I feel like we've got a topic here now, finally, Kate.
I know, sorry. I was just doing it because I knew if I gave you guys the link, you'd all be on there, and then I would be like, no one would be listening to me. I was being very teachery with you. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Can you get on there? Can anybody check to make sure that it's good to go? Oh yeah, I see people on there. Okay, great.
Okay. I'm gonna join too, and well, I'm gonna go on it too, and I'm gonna start thinking.
Yeah. So it will seem kind of quiet here, and we're not ignoring you, but we'll maybe pick off some ideas as they come through. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, I'm in there. I'm starting to add right now.
Okay.
I'll put my underlines on. I'm good to get out.
And you know what maybe I'll do is I'm gonna stop sharing, and then because you're gonna share after this anyway, right there, Sally?
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, like whiteboards, totally. I'm gonna add whiteboard marker.
And I'm just thinking, I'm sitting here. What would I wish they'd known before March break academic? Like, it's hard. Like, if you're thinking like in terms of math, there's like there's some harder concepts that you would want them to learn in person. That's easier to teach, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it meets etiquette. Yeah, I know. And like that maybe doesn't have to be. Maybe I'll change that to other.
I like in the tech here, Diane's writing like, what do you wish they'd known? How to submit and resubmit work.
Yeah.
Yeah, like digitally. I'm assuming she.
Yeah.
Let make videos. Yeah. Like,
yeah, that's such a good idea.
I would want them to have like a solid understanding of key platforms, like how to log in, what to do when it freezes up, like those simple things that, you know,
even maybe like what the icons mean, right? Like what does that, like, because a lot of them are similar. So like the plus button, or I know people who use Seesaw, like I've heard that the kids, they don't press the add response button, right? Like just little things that you think are so easy. And I wonder about maybe it's already mentioned on slide 4, I haven't gone there yet, about like are you going to get your kids to do an assignment at school so you can troubleshoot there, you know, and Seesaw, like send out a, you know, if you have tech for everybody at school, just see where the problems are.
That and then on slide 2, they're talking about like etiquette within a meet, and then feeling comfortable to share rather than just sit there. So like making mistakes, like I feel like that would be one of my number one things, is like, yes, we make mistakes and that's how we learn, and that's, mistakes are awesome for us, right? And like, let's make them so that we can, you know, like it's okay to make mistakes so then we can learn from each other, right? We can think about our thinking and like, so I would focus on that in September too, because it's harder to share online. And like it took me a long time to get past my anxiety about like speaking freely to a computer, like digital platform. I've been, just growing up, you've been so cautioned about, I guess I wouldn't be growing up in my 20s, so cautioned about anything you do online and digital footprint and stuff. So then you're anxious, right? You don't want to make a mistake or wrong. And so like, even for me, like in this role, like it's been a learning curve that it's okay if I make mistakes, and it, like I'm only at where I am, and that's where I am, right?
Yeah.
So like,
I know,
to see that and understand that, and so that they are comfortable in sharing.
Yeah.
Like, visually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was gonna.
That's a great idea. Like how to connect with another person. You know what? And one thing that I liked in my online courses that I've taken is that like question, like a blog type spot where like if you have a question, you just post it in there, and then somebody in the class can respond to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes it's just a silly question you don't know the answer to. So if you just post it in, then you can.
I was just thinking about that, Sally. You know how we did think about the learning environment where you have like the campfire, where you all, like if you look at your classroom, and do you have a spot where you can all go to the fire and gather around and tell stories? Do you have a mountain, like a place where you can celebrate or showcase learning? Do you have a cave where you can go to keep to work independently? Or do you have the water hole where you go if you need information, you know, you get nourishment and then you go back to work, kind of thing? Like, how do we set that up digitally? Because we do that in our classrooms, right? Like we have the carpet area, everybody has like a zone where they can work at, or maybe you have a table if you want to work together. You have a resource area that you can go and get information or ask questions and then go back to your task. So how do you do that digitally?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the study buddy, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, your daughter experienced that, didn't she, Kate? Like,
yeah, it was really good. They were still working on their math test this morning. I can't believe it. I even said to her, Aubrey, you don't have to panic so much. It's, you know, it's okay. And she's, oh, I gotta get this done.
But you were saying like sometimes they don't even talk. They just are in the same like Facebook connection together.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I wonder, Deb was writing in the chat in the Zoom session about, I can't remember what she said. She said something about units or something. Didn't see her in that.
Oh, she's talking there about doing a monthly package. Hi, Deb, how are you? Just wondering if you wanted to talk off mic on that.
Oh, I'm making packages for the fall. Yeah, that's good. That's what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Hi, yeah, I'm here.
Deb?
Hi. Yeah, that's what I'm processing in my brain, because with my health issues too, I'm nervous about being back in the classroom and that. So if I have a package that, whether they're at their desk and they have everything, then I can teach to where I want to go with that, but still have all my inquiry stuff in there, but at least it gives me a place to go, a place to start, and a place where we're headed. And if they get sent home, then they still have that package that we can continue with. Because I'm finding it hard right now, and my kids are dropping like flies because they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be heard on there, they don't want to type because confidence levels and all those kind of things are affecting it. And then, but if I had something that was already set for me and ready to go, then I can teach to that instead of struggling every day figuring out, you know, what they're going to connect to, because so many of them aren't connecting to things that I would think they would enjoy doing, but they don't. Like even making all the seesaw activities and that, like I've worked so hard on things and then they rarely do them, my virtual classrooms, and that anything that seems like it might be difficult or that they have to read a little bit, they shy away from it. And so unless I'm leading them through it, which hasn't always been possible.
To show how essential the educator is in student learning, right? Like
that's what I keep saying. I keep saying to people, like, if you think of how much we get out of kids every day, we're like miracle workers, because we really are, because it's that whole drama and excitement and what we bring to it. And without that, it's, I don't know, I'm struggling. I feel like I failed the end of my year, and I had such great kids, but I just,
and that's the heartbreaking time of this year, that, because I know, Debbie, like you run that real inquiry stance to your classroom. So
and that's what I said, my hands-on stuff is gone. Like I'm like, I just feel tied that I'm not doing all those things.
I was just chatting with Wendy from the Science Education Partnership, and so she's starting to look at the science experiments and getting those Discovery Science Squad guests that come to our classroom, and how do we engage them through video. So she just sampled with me like a density one. So I think there's a lot of, like, I think we're, you know, the necessity is the mother of invention. So
well, and that's what I need. Like if I had somebody or if something was made, like I always think, if there were a, you know, whatever math talks made for September, and it's like, I can go to that and, you know, use that. And then, but it's already set, so I'm not remaking all these things. And then in my reading program, like my kids have been doing the Lexi and Power Up, and my grade 5s, most of them are in Power Up already. Like they've just done amazing, but my 6s, not so much. So then, but that was something that was ready. It met all the needs that I have in the room, and they could go to it and do it. Do I feel like I failed them? Yeah. But some of them that have gone through it feel so accomplished that they've made it as far as they have, you know what I mean? So I'm like, how do I get that feeling? I don't know.
Yeah, but like, I hate to hear you say that you have failed them, because I know about you, and I know you haven't failed them. Like if you can say that, like some of them have really accomplished and moved on in some of the programming, like this platform, like learning online, is not for everybody. And you got to keep in mind that like everybody's situation is different. And so I really don't think you failed your students. I think you've probably done some really amazing things with them, and it's a really difficult circumstance that we've been in.
Yeah.
So don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah, like I keep thinking, okay, the
hard on yourself, because
the things, the award, I said the kids will remember things we won this year and competitions and all their movie making and all that. And we did that from online as well, because they were sending their clips to me and then voicing it and then putting it together. Like, but I'm like, this last little bit's just felt not right.
I think Diane had a really good point earlier, and she said, like, I don't know where she put it, but she said something about marks have to count, because like now, marks aren't counting, and it's so nice out, and you know, it's hard to compete with that. It's hard to compete with being home, and like the restrictions are loosening up. Like that's not, you know what I mean? Like, that's hard. That's really hard to compete with.
And that was the problem with it, is because my kids are like, well, if nothing gets marked, like none of this matters, right? And I'm like, if they knew they were getting marked on their mazes that they were making, or their egg drop projects, or their whatever, I would have had so many more doing it, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, they don't realize that. I guess one thing we should be focusing on too is the like learning for learning's sake, and how we're so lucky to be able to learn right here where we are. And like, even though we're remote, like, I guess that's one thing we could focus on. But then also, like, they want to have some like so Karen, like, remember when, I don't know if you were here, Deb, when Karen presented, but like they had an authentic audience to be able to have their work posted and seen by other people. So like when it doesn't count for anything, then it's not, it's hard to value, it's hard to invest in something that they don't feel is worth anything, right? So
yeah,
that's hard.
Yeah, like even with my Bottle Buddy projects, I do, like, I think I had 12 of them done, and I was like they love those every year, they're the best. So why couldn't it? You know, kids would just write in, oh, I don't have recyclable materials to build it with. Like, there were just so many excuses, but it was like, it's not going to get marked, who cares anyways? I was like, no, you shouldn't have that attitude. I haven't taught you that.
It's hard, but I think that like I feel for it. Like, I get the situation, and I also get it from like a parent perspective, and so it's for sure.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think for everybody, and I think like, I'm hopeful that when we go back in September, because I think that part of it at least will be face-to-face, that we know what expectations we need to set with the kids about learning at home. And even though we're not sitting in the room with them, you know, especially because it is September versus June, like that's a little bit different, that, you know, hopefully we can instill some good work ethics about what is expected with their work completion, you know. And I know, Deb, you do some awesome things, and you know, you're there to guide them for sure, but it is hard when you put so much effort into something. I can understand that.
Maybe I think like in the package that I create, like it has that, even though marking and those kind of things, I'm like not about that, but the process of completion, like,
Right.
I don't know, somehow, so that they're responsible for it and they don't look at it as just work. Like you said, it's that whole learning process. I don't know.
I think we'll be looking at assessment differently in September than we're looking at assessment now.
Yeah.
That will be part of it too. Like, things will count, but like just the fact about completion is a form of feedback, right? Getting information back and saying, yes, you did that. And Diane's mentioned there about, you know, high need students that have exceptionalities too. You know, we know that that's a part of the population that has struggled through this as well, like kids that
definitely.
Right. So how do we support those students? So we still have some learning that will go forward. But I think,
and knowing
lots of stuff in your slides, it's going to be good to share.
And knowing that knowing that the report card system, like all that changing too. I think a lot of people are going to be overwhelmed. So it's like, we really have to be prepared with what we're going to do with the kids for September, October, in case we're sent home, because that's going to be a whole nother thing that throws people off. Because even for me, trying to figure out all these platforms, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't do all this. So how do we?
You did. That's the amazing
not really.
Part. We did though, right? You're here.
But I couldn't even type into your collaborative slides because I can't figure it out. That's how dumb I am. Like,
no,
seriously.
You're just 2 clicks away from getting it.
Reach out and connect with one of the coaches then, because we've learned all this stuff in the last year. So we would be glad to connect with you and help you with anything. We've got like 1 minute left here. So I think we're going to skip my sharing part, but those, just so that I can mention those sites that I found, they're intriguing sites. The first one is just the 360 photos. There's some really interesting things in there, and I found so many connections to science, social studies, current events, So that would be, so there are 2 good sites to go peek. They're in the show notes. So have a peek yourself. You'll find some really cool things. And I know Leslie was posting in the thing, is anybody doing anything neat? There's some pictures in there about the pandemic in 1918. And they're really neat pictures that the kids could make some good connections to and write about. So that might be a good thing for you to look at, Leslie. There's also a virtual or a 3D maze in there too, which would be cool.
There is some cool things, but I feel like we should say thanks for everybody for coming to our sessions. I know that I found it helpful, and we hope that you found it helpful too. And we actually have an email coming out next week that's going to have a survey attached to it, and that's going to go, I think, to all junior teachers. So you'll get that just on the same mailing list from Carol. And please look for that, because we want to know what you guys want to learn about. So that we can know how to go forward in our planning.
So thank you. Your students, like we said on here, they are lucky to have you guys as such communicators all the time, and like professional learning you've done during this pandemic. It's amazing.
It has been amazing. And I think even though maybe Deb and you know, a lot of teachers are feeling a bit deflated, like your efforts overall have been amazing.
Yeah.
Like we get the privilege of seeing sort of a bird's eye view of lots of classrooms, and it's incredible the learning that teachers have done, and it's only going to make everything better in the long run for sure.
Yeah. So be proud of everything you've done this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you guys. And thank you, Kate and Pam.
Yeah, thanks, Sally and Pam.
Yeah, it was great.
I think that's a great point to end on. Be proud of so much that you accomplished. Everybody's been learning so much from the presenters' end, like your end, from my end, from the people that are guests. It's been tremendous.
Yeah.
Like Rod is our man behind the scenes, so thank you, Rod, for carrying everything. But also he's not with our board, so I always like I love LKDSB and our team, what we do and everything, but I like that Rod has an outside view of what we've been doing here. So
yeah,
when
if you saw what was going on, you saw what was going on elsewhere, you'd be so celebratory of what the wonderful things you've been doing. It's really been tremendous. So I've been very lucky to be able to sit in on these sessions. I mean, not beyond learning and building
we've been lucky to
relationships
have
with you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's been really good.
Yeah. But
I feel like we should have a celebratory drink or something.
We should, but I have to end this meeting. There's another one.
Yeah.
Everybody's
on celebratory drink.
All right, put me down. I'll see y'all real soon.
Yeah.
Until we meet in person.